on this story. Let's get some perspective now from former Israeli Justice Minister Yossi Beilin. He also served as Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister. Thank you very much, Yossi, for joining us on the show. Look, I want to start, if I may, where Jeremy Diamond was talking about earlier, and that is President Trump's Gaza plan. Were you at all surprised that Prime Minister Netanyahu said he would not accept that decision to the 15-point plan?
But this is not the situation. I mean, it is a very strange situation, almost funny, although the situation, generally speaking, is far from being funny. What Netanyahu is doing is very simple. He is implementing the 15 points, which are the implementation of the 20 points of the Trump plan from November, but he is saying that he is not implementing it. So in that way, usually, it is the other way around. I mean, he is saying that he is doing whatever he should do, implementing, and in reality, it doesn't happen. Now, he does implement because he wants to cater to President Trump. But since he's so much dependent on the extreme right in his cabinet, he is saying that he is very much against it. So here we are.
Right, so that's really interesting. So he's implementing it, but saying he doesn't back it. And he did say further on, Yossi, he said, they have ideas, some of which are acceptable to us and some are not. And we know how to stand up to those things, speaking about the US. I mean, how then should we interpret his comments on this plan? Just, is he defying President Trump, or do you think President Trump can read the politics at play here?
I'm not sure that whether he's defying President Trump, but what I can tell you that just few minutes ago, there was a very interesting public opinion poll on our TV, and one of the questions was, who can really be the leader who stand up to the American president and sometimes say no to him? Because Netanyahu's claim to fame was that he always said, I'm the only one who can say no to the American president. So out of the numbers were very, very low for Netanyahu. And here you can understand what is happening. He wants to say to his base, to his voters, that he is very strong even against his best friend, Trump. But in reality, he's acting very differently.
Yeah, look, I'm seeing also reporting
actually,
from
if I may say another word.
Go ahead, Yossi. Go ahead, Yossi.
Yeah, he puts himself in this situation since he said in the beginning of the 3 last years that he was not going to deal with the morning after. Why doesn't he deal with the morning after? Because he doesn't have a plan for the morning after, what will happen with the Palestinians. So now he finds himself in a very delicate political timing, in a situation where he doesn't have the answers. And then he has to somehow tell something to the American president and something very, very different to his ministers, but it doesn't work because now we are talking about it, so it is very exposed.
Yeah, no, indeed. Look, I was mentioning just reporting I saw before I came on air, Yossi, from Barak Ravid, who was quoting a senior US official. And I'm going to say what he says. We understand Bibi's political needs. We have no problem with it as long as he continues to do what we ask, especially regarding restraining attacks in Gaza, which speaks to your first point, really, that he says he's not doing it, but he's doing it. Do you think then, how do you think he will manage this? Will he kick the can down the road until the elections in October? Of course, the US has got similar pressures, as you heard Jeremy talking about, with the midterms in November. How do you see the strategy here from Netanyahu?
Kicking the can down the road is actually the very profound and serious strategy of Netanyahu and of some of his predecessors. They don't have the answer. You ask them, what are you going to do with the Palestinians? You don't want the Palestinian state? Tell us, what do you want? He never says so. So in such a situation, what can he do? Kick the can, and that is what he's doing.
And then, so in that question, then, as we look very briefly here, Yossi, as we look to the election, October 27th, I think is October, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this election, in your view, a referendum? Is it a referendum on Netanyahu, or will people be voting mostly on security and war? How do you read this election?
No, it's a referendum of Netanyahu. Now it is very clear. You have the camp which still supports him, but it is much smaller than ever before. And you have the camp which is opposing him. And it is quite promising. Yeah, to say, if you watch the polls, you can say that it is almost impossible for him to return to his to the job that he likes so much. So the main aim of Netanyahu is to prevent the opposition to him from actually winning the elections by whatever ideas he has. For example, if he says that Arabs are not legitimate to be part of the future coalition, it is not because of what he thinks necessarily about the Arabs, but he wants to already now make the future coalition illegitimate. And this is one of the things that we will have to deal with in the near future.
Yossi, really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Thank you very much indeed. Yossi Beilin joining us now there from Tel Aviv.
Thank you for having me.
Israel.